So let's get down to the feature match and have ourselves round number 1 of this regional qualifier here in Las Vegas. It is Brianna Hatfield versus John Berglund, Rumble versus Jinx, and Papertree. It's going to be the first battlefield for Game 1 versus Zorn Warrens. Zorn Warrens, very standard. Papertree, I'm going to be honest, I don't think I expected to see this at all this weekend.
Yeah, I definitely did not think I would see it, but I think John's list is set up for Zorn Warrens. I believe I saw the scrap heap in his list, so very standard with the Game 1. One of his plans to be here is going to be to make sure he finds his 2-drop being Traveling Merchant, and I mean, it's important for both of them, but Zorn Warrens is going to allow him to discard a lot of cards, which is going to play into his chosen champion of that Jinx. And then also, the Traveling Merchant will get double that effect.
Yeah, I think one of the things you can think about when you look at these purple decks and we talk about Miracle Shells, what we're really talking about are decks that want to churn through their deck as fast as possible. The goal is to draw a lot of cards, get through your deck, cycle through it, and then get to a point where you start recycling cards and put them into your deck, and then all of a sudden, the only cards you are drawing are the good cards.
And that will make for a fantastic game for you if you can do it. So fingers crossed we see that come down here. They are just doing their mulligans, it looks like, or maybe they already have. But in this game, it's actually kind of a unique mulligan where you get to choose 2 of your 4 original cards and then put them at the bottom of your deck. Then you get to draw the next 2. So you don't actually shuffle afterwards, and no matter what, you would have seen the next 2 cards in that exact order.
Very much appreciate the lack of shuffling.
Yeah.
As it is going to be Rumble starting off first. Plundering Poro going to be the first unit deployed to base here. And John going to go second here on Jinx, going to channel through runes. As you astutely pointed out, only purple in this deck, so only cares about purple power. All of the Fury cards are ones that don't cost power, and a Merchant on turn 1. Pretty nice.
Yeah, very, very nice start. I think Brianna's also happy with theirs. Plundering Poro brings out one of the new mechanics in set 2, which is gold. If this Plundering Poro can conquer either of these battlefields, he'll be able to generate 1 gold.
Yeah, that gold, of course, basically acting as an additional power. It's kind of like a seal that you only get to use once, but very powerful when you're trying to pay power costs, especially if you're trying to play multiple spells a turn. And Rumble, a lot of those mechs have some pretty hefty power costs. You think about a card like Singularity, very powerful card in mind. That is 2 blue power you need to power that one, so going to be good to get the gold early here.
Yeah, that'll be really nice. Singularity is so strong. Love to see it as soon as turn 3. Though I guess Jinx is probably running some lower might units like this Traveling Merchant. So we'll have to see what comes out here from the Rumble.
Yeah, the curving's really nice here as well, because obviously you have a 2. Going to go to the Warrens here for Brianna and just go ahead and conquer, get a point. Our first one of the event. Always nice to get on the board first and then draw this card. Make a gold on Conquer there for the Plundering Poro. One of the nice things about Rumble is that this is a 4 energy champion that you can put in your champion zone as Rumble that doesn't cost you any power. So it's really easy to curve turn 1, turn 2.
Yeah, that's so nice. And getting these nice little units out that don't have power allow you to get all your runes set up and have more for those following turns. I'm interested to see if we will see a different card in hand or if we're actually just going to play it directly from the champion zone. But it looks like Gem Jammer is going to be our turn 2 unit here.
Gem Jammer. I'm double checking. Is Gem Jammer a mech? Because I've been looking at the mech cards. It is a mech. Well, when you play me, give a unit ganking this turn. Shout out production. Valuing the extra 2-drop and the mech here. Maybe holding up a spell here also.
Yeah, Gem Jammer is so nice with that ganking that we mentioned. I am interested to see if Traveling Merchant will successfully get into this battlefield with 2 runes up. Red and blue have some options to stopping this Traveling Merchant from taking that point, but John does get their point, and we're even now.
Yeah, feels good. Again, I kind of like this, going to the Warrens, denying Jinx a potential draw. Again, trying to get through the deck quickly, so every little draw discard does count. Merchant obviously triggers on move, so has that before anything else happens. But Ezreal, a card you're going to get sick of hearing me say, I think, over the course of this weekend. 3 energy, very powerful passive text, but the one that feels good is the first part. When you play me, discard 1, draw 2.
Yeah, I will say we drew a card that we wish we'd already had in hand. Ezreal is discarding, like you mentioned, and drawing 2, but you really want to start with that seal for Ezreal or be able to discard the scrap heap with Ezreal, and we drew into it. We can still play it later. When you discard Scrap Heap, you're allowed to draw an extra card. So we're going to be looking at that Zorn Warrens or a movement from that Traveling Merchant to get that extra draw from Scrap Heap.
Again, makes a lot of sense. Just trying to get through the cards, get the deck as thin as you can, and then start really just vomiting might onto the board, honestly. Is that a lot of what the Battering Ram style stuff does. Seal, though, very important to, again, being able to play lots of spells as you get later into the game. Some lists we may find over the weekend have things like Nocturne, which can benefit from finding off the power when you see them on the top of your deck. But for now, it is a classic of Origins, Falling Star, pointing at the 2 units on the board and said, I would like these gone, and it looks like Hard Bargain going to be the card to answer this.
Ouch. We do have multiple runes up, though, so while Brianna almost could have been stopped there, she knew to hold those runes and was able to play that Hard Bargain cost, meaning John's board is completely wiped. What are they going to do here going into their next turn potentially?
Yeah, get a bit of a discount as well thanks to the gold that Plundering Pro generated. Gem Jam are now going to get on the paper tree. That's 3 points to 1. Has to feel pretty good for the start of this game. And again, Battlefield wipes out Ezreal. Again, that passive tax is extremely good for this deck. So taking that Ezreal off the field doesn't seem like the most threatening unit. Doesn't have that much might as a 3-drop, but you definitely want to get it off the board if you can.
Yeah. This deck is all about not only, discarding and setting up that deck in the order that you want, but also discounting. As you mentioned, the battering ram, trying to bring it in as low cost as possible. We're going to be looking for that Rasa that gets discounted based on how many cards are in your discard pile. And Ezreal just plays into that, discounting additional costs, which can be like the repeat on Hard Bargain or accelerate costs as well.
Yeah, we talk about gold kind of being a thing to discount power on Rumble's side. That is effectively the same for Ezreal's decks, right? Reducing some of the power burden there as well, especially if you're playing powerful repeat effects. So far, so good. 5 points now for the Rumble player here in Game 1, off to the races. And I have to say, you do need to get an early start here, I think, as Rumble. I don't think you can match the late game that this Jinx deck can get to.
Yeah, we'll have to see. We do have a couple, I think, bigger units that you can be playing in Rumble, like Ferris Forerunner. I'm not sure if I saw it in their list or not, but Ferris Forerunner with 6 might is really nice as well.
I would guess Forerunner blind, looking at any Rumble deck list that is registered this weekend. So maybe not in hand right now, but have to imagine that's available. Looks like 7 runes right now and no gold, as both units do retreat back to base here again, valuing taking those battlefields later, not wanting to hold with the battering ram now on the board was basically the play there for John, just plopping down a 5 might unit, which is good, but a lot worse when it costs 5 and going to be matched by a 5-drop of her own, as that is Rumble Scrapper. Very good when you can hold. Makes a mech in base.
Yeah, we love the blue Rumble. It is the other choice that she could use in future games for the Chosen Champion spot. But yeah, nice to see come in, and we'll have to see if we can see a hold next turn. But also +1 might to all mechs, so just a buff across the board.
Yeah. And of course, don't forget, Rumble's Legend ability gives all your mechs Assault. So on offense, which they're currently queued up for, thanks to being all in the base, it's effectively +2 on offense with Rumble Scrapper being on the board. So Mega Death Rocket's going to shoot that one in the face, and going to deal 5 to a 5 might unit.
Ooh, we have one down.
Ooh, retreat!
That's a nice one. Retreat not only saves your unit potentially, but also helps generate runes, which we can use in these future turns.
Yep, kind of makes up for the power cost that Brianna just had to pay. Did have to use 1 mind power there in order to get the Scrapper out. So nice to see kind of not a discount necessarily, but a rebate, I guess we can call it. And Battering Ram going to make the way to the Warrens for the first time actually for Jinx, which is going to be successful. Again, I think being on the play and taking that battlefield first really dissuaded Jinx from wanting to take it. So finally getting a draw discard, which again, I can't emphasize enough how much this deck just wants to get through their deck. So slowing that down as early as possible felt like a really good opening here. But I see a Fizz, I see a stack deck. I think I see a Fight or Flight in their hands here for John. 5 cards to go and 3 more runes after this play, which is going to be stack deck.
Yeah, Stack Deck will bring us, it looks like we're at 3 runes. We have some options still after the Stack Deck. We do luckily get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck. We get to choose the best card from those 3, and the other 2 will go to the bottom of John's deck, getting them somewhat in the order that he wants it, but also to procure a good card for his hand in his upcoming turn.
Yeah, just the kind of card that gives you a lot of selection, which is very powerful in just about any card game. This was, I think the most expensive uncommon in Origins. This is a card that was highly sought after. As I see John fishing through the trash, which I know what's going on because I can see John's hand. But I think Brianna probably knows that a Fizz is maybe on the horizon here as well. Wonder what the recycle's going to be. Look, it's 2-drop instead. Is that Merchant? No, it's Battering Ram. A little bit of a discount there, thanks to playing the Stack Deck and the Seal that turn.
Yeah, it's really nice to get to play it for less. But yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on Fizz. When you play Fizz, you are allowed to play one of those spells from our discard pile. And so depending what it is, it could be a really strong turn coming up. 1 rune is left up for John, which is the magic number for purple is we're looking at 2 runes. There's so many options in these purple decks that when you're at 2 runes, Brianna would have a lot more things to think about when they either go into Zon Warrens or Paper Tree. But ouch, a Singularity coming down and wiping the board again.
Not a deck I really think of in terms of just playing efficient removal, but these other domains that Rumble is in, Falling Star, Singularity, these are all stars from Origins as far as removal goes. So again, John trying to establish might with these relatively big units for their cost, especially when Battering Ram gets a discount. And Brianna just saying, nope, I'm going to take point number 6 and a gold, and probably Gem Jam is going to move over to Paper Tree as well. And as you kind of alluded to, I think without a hidden card especially, very hard for Jinx to represent much of anything. Especially as we could see, even if Brianna doesn't know it's only purple runes, you have a pretty strong suspicion at this point, because you're not going to get a Hextech raid in this spot either.
Yeah, 100%. So even though she has red, maybe we don't have to worry about some of those red spells that could remove. So Brianna has that plus or buff in their deck, actually having those removal spells.
Yeah, it just gives you an idea of like, what could my opponent have, right? A lot of options get narrowed down. As we can see, has to get out of kind of a sticky situation. A hold is going to win here. I will remind the audience, Brianna is at 7 points right now on Rumble, so a hold is good enough. Of course, a double conquer on the following turn would be good enough as well. Not that many runes left up here, just 3 on the Rumble side, so not a lot of potential protection on offer, but you only have to hold one of these to win, and you're looking pretty good in general, given how ahead on the race you are. So it's going to be Jinx.
Ooh.
When discard, get bigger, get ready, which is going to be pretty good in this spot.
Yeah, this is going to be so nice. Hopefully John will be able to take at least one side, but he has to take both. In Riftbound, that win con is not just hitting 8, but to hit 8, you either have to conquer both battlefields or have held or have had control of the battlefield both in the same turn, or hold to 8. So while maybe if this was a conquer, it would be as big a deal, he has to wipe both sides here, or he's going to lose this game.
This turn might be pretty good. Jinx is going to get ready and get bigger. Ezreal spell 2 for the turn. Battering Ram, one of the draws off the top from those Ezreal draws. So we can play a few more spells. We can put a lot of might on the battlefield nice and quickly. Instead, going to go ahead and start by challenging the Plundering Power at the Warrens. And that is also going to give Jinx, Ready Jinx again by drawing and discarding after the conquer. So a lot of nice synergy here for Jinx.
Yeah, very, very true. So we'll see that discard, that ready, and I don't believe she has Gankings. So we'll have to go back to the battle, the base. But I'm sure there's going to be another option to discard and get into Paper Tree.
I can tell you I see a Boots of Swiftness in John's hand, but unfortunately Boots is a little too expensive to play on this board. That would be a way to give ganking in this spot. As you can see, Jinx Rebel on your screen. When you discard one or more cards, ready me and give me +1 this turn. There's also the ability to pick up Super Mega Death Rocket from the trash, but a little expensive to go here. As what happened to poor Jinx?
It looks like we are just going to concede and go game 2.
Okay.
I think the other option, if we had one more rune open, which we didn't, is to get that fight or flight back to base. It would maintain the readiness and then be able to go in, but we did just miss by 1 rune. So sad, but it's something to keep our eye on. If maybe we'd even just been able to get Seal a turn earlier when we had to spend 1 to play Ez, we'd have had that rune to be able to fight or flight back and go into Paper Tree.
Great catch there. It was just a hold. Not a 2-might unit I didn't expect to win by holding in our first game, but that is what happens. Rumble going to take the first one here. 1-0 up now for Brianna. We'll see if Jinx can get the wheels turning in game number 2 as we switch battlefields. Vilemore's Lair on the other side and Minefield, the 2 selected here.
Yeah, Vilema is such a great choice, in my opinion, for Brianna. She's going to be going in so many purple decks today, and many of these purple decks are relying on that same card we mentioned earlier, Fight or Flight, or different movement spells that purple has to bring their units back to base. And Vilema just says you are not allowed to move to base. So really, really nice against purple, and Jinx is not going to want to conquer it first, at least.
As a Yasuo player, makes me very sad. Even in the instance we saw with Jinx Rebel, if it's ready, can't move back the regular way. Have to find another way. Maybe ganking over with the Boots of Swiftness is going to be one of those ways. But we'll shuffle up for game 2. Minefield, of course, on the other side. Some of the same, I think we can say, as far as Zone Warrens go. Not exactly the same. Don't get the draw with the discard, but do get to put some cards in your trash, which, as you mentioned, with cards like Rasa, with having access to your graveyard with things like Fizz, get a lot of benefits from conquering there and kind of, again, shuffling cards between different zones, which is really what this deck is trying to do.
Exactly. So we'll have to see if they can utilize it well. It's going to be so interesting. Hopefully, John will be able to get more cards in the discard, be able to discount more of their units, that having to pay full price for battering ram or having to pay that recycle for Ezreal is just not where you want to be.
You can kind of see some of the appeal, though, for Rumble, just even watching that game. You're just very consistent, right? If you find your 2-drop, you have a 2 into a very clean 4. You're constantly putting good numbers onto the battlefield, applying pressure to your opponent, and just saying, hey, I know your deck is going to do something very powerful if you're given enough time. My goal is to just not give you enough time.
It's a good game plan. I would say that's a good game plan. So if we can do it again, it'll be great to see. I do think sometimes like these Miracle decks come from behind, but Rumble's going to try to stop it, and Rumble does have extra might from that Assault you mentioned, from the +1 from the blue Rumble, I believe it is. So we'll have to see how it really plays out and if they'll be able to take game 2 as well, or maybe we'll see a game 3. That'd be awesome between these 2 decks.
I certainly would be. I have a feeling I mixed up my Rumbles, which is okay. I think Rumble Legend gives Shield and Red Rumble gives Assault. Yes, that is correct.
Ah, my bad.
No, that's fine. That was I led you down the wrong path, and you just went with me, which I appreciate you following me blindly, but it's mild correction there. It is Rumble Legend giving Shield. But again, if you have them both, and again, it is your Legend and your chosen champion, you effectively just get +1, which is, by the way, the text on Rumble Scrapper. So if you have all of them in play, if you have the full Rumble, I suppose, as we say, the full mech army assembled, you get +2 effectively whenever you're on a battlefield, which is, I guess it's even if you're going to a battlefield. Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah. I think getting free plus might is fantastic in this game. We love might.
We do love might. Everyone loves some good numbers as players are just having a little yap, and should be off to the races in short order here.
Yeah.
As Rumble up 1-0 early on here.
I would love to see the Scrapper Rumble be able to actually get one of those 3 might mechs, though. Maybe that's my wish list for this game.
That's your wish list?
That's my wish list for this game.
It's a good one. To think of what I want to see. I want to see a spell song do something fun, I think. But that would require Ornn to do anything, which I think is probably not going to happen. Sorry, Medic, I'm trying out here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the nice thing about Rumble Scrapper is the passive text of mechs getting +1 applies to the 3 might token you make. So you basically make 4s whenever you hold, as long as that is in play. But we're back here on the play now for John. Jinx is going to play Traveling Merchant on turn 1, and all of a sudden feels a lot better for the Jinx player.
Yeah, getting their 2-drop so quickly, going first. I think Jinx is feeling pretty confident. But obviously that could change quickly if maybe we see Falling Star in a couple turns, if we see that same board wipe that Brianna was able to pull off last game. But it does look like Bubblebot is going to be coming down. I mixed up Rumble. Coming down here into the base. When you play it, you're able to ready another friendly mech, which is really nice later in game. But for now, there is no other mech for her.
Yeah, just a great little card in Rumble. Good early here, pretty good rate at a 3-drop with 3 might. But running something big like a Forerunner maybe, Breakneck Mech if you're playing that. I don't know how many Rumble decks playing the card. I'm obsessed with that card.
Oh, no.
Because I want to play terrible cards that cost too much energy. Is Stack Deck going to be the first spell put on the chain here?
Let's see. Did we get Seal off of Stack Deck? That's a nice card to get.
Yep.
Yeah. So we are going to be able to recycle the one that we had already exhausted. So really nice to bring that down. And it brings a couple options here. I see Called Shot in hand, which is going to be really nice to draw through our cards. You get to look at, it's kind of a smaller Stack Deck, and for cheaper-ish, where you get to look at 2 cards and choose one. The other goes to the bottom of your deck. And I also saw Ezreal, which can feed into Called Shot well, but it looks like Rebuke is going. Oh, no, Rebuke is a discard from Traveling Merchant. My bad.
Yep, going to move, draw, discard, and now put some cards into the rubbish bin. 4 already. Again, if we're doing a Rasa count, that's looking pretty good as far as discounting that unit goes. Between that and Battering Ram, these are the big units you often see in these these style of builds, I should say, whether it's Jinx or Draven. But there's Ezreal, very nicely curved here, using that seal that was used earlier, discarding a backup Ezreal.
Ooh.
And then drawing 2 cards, including a Rasa.
That is nice. You were mentioning that discard pile is going to be beefing up here, especially going into Minefield. You get to potentially discard, I think it was the top 2 of your deck. So many cards can end up into your trash pile where Rasa is really going to feed off of that.
Yeah, definitely the battlefield where you benefit the most from that specific angle of attack. Zillion Warren's kind of a good all-rounder, letting you, again, discard and draw, which is kind of where you want to be for most of the effects in your deck. I mean, look at Ezreal. Zillion Warren's is basically a mini version of that effect that everybody wants access to right now, as it is going to be Rumble hot-headed and Bubblebot to the battlefield. Nice little sequencing thing here by Silverfuse, just playing the Rumble first, so the Assault, if it mattered, was going to make Bubblebot a little stronger there. And again, has shield now from the Legend ability, as we do remember how to read all the different Rumbles in the game. And I'm going to go ahead and trash 2 cards from the top, Bella's Breath, and 1 more, Retreat, as Barkus does want a look. And we'll pass it back here, as again, the plan has been established, a point each, but mechs are being deployed to the battlefields. That's all you want to do is Rumble.
Yeah, I think Rumble is playing out their game plan pretty well here. We are going to be going back to Ezreal. Not Ezreal, Jinx, but Ezreal is getting ready here.
Come on.
We'll have to see what happens, but I'd love to see that call shot come down and get some more cards into Jinx's hand. And as we mentioned, Ezreal discounts additional costs. So the second called shot, it's free.
It certainly is, which is
free.
a very good price for a cold shot. Already costs 0 energy, so getting that power discount is real nice as well. Super Mega Death Rocket coming back out once more to take out Rumble, and there's that cold shot you mentioned.
Yep, there's called shot, and the Death Rocket, starting to clear out some of Silverfuse's board, but this is leaving us at 1 rune, which does mean we won't have, during Silverfuse's turn, the option for Fight or Flight or different 2-cost cards.
Yeah, this really feels like a setup turn, I think, on Jinx's side. Ezreal going to get some discounts. Again, just pointing out that I can do this again. And going to move Ezreal over, try and challenge the Bubblebot. That one has shield. There's Blood Rush, so that's going to make the difference here.
Yeah, that's going to bring Ezreal just up to the amount it needs to be able to kill Bubblebot. But we have 1 rune up. Doesn't look like we are going to be using it. But there are some options in the blue deck with just 1. I'm not sure if it's in the deck, but there are things like Stupefy or other things that can help bring the might down of your opponent's cards.
Yeah, it looks like we passed all the way to kind of resolving damage there. So those windows have passed. Silverfuse is just going to say, okay, Ezreal can get on the battlefield. That's totally fine.
Second seal.
Here comes another seal. And Rocket's going to come back here as well.
That's going to be so nice to get it back in the hand. And now that Silverfuse knows it's there, it's a risk that she's going to have to weigh for every single turn.
Yeah, it looks like that seal's actually discarded, because you do have to discard it. Well, on Conquer, discard a card, get your Rocket back is how Super Mega Death Rocket works. I was like running the text through my head, just double checking exactly when that happened. But on Conquer, Project's deciding that, you know what, these mech units are pretty good when you're able to stack a bunch of them. So now my goal is to just shoot every single one of them with a giant rocket so that you can't do that.
Sounds like a feasible game plan, and we're pulling it off here on Project side.
Very Jinx coded to just shoot everything with a big gun until you win.
That is very Jinx coded. I think League of Legends would be happy with this.
Well, I will say, as far as units that are tough to Super Mega Death Rocket, Ferris Forerunner might be at the tippy top of the list.
Yeah, Ferris Forerunner, you wouldn't think too much of it. It's a 6 for 6, and you're having to recycle 1. But Jinx, who's going to be trying to clear the board, wipe it, Ferris Forerunner says, no, kill me, I dare you, and I'm going to make 2 more units you have to deal with.
Yeah, even better with Rumble, because Rumble Hot-Headed will buff those mechs. Again, they got bigger. The shield they'll also get. If they Rumble Hot-Headed in play, they'll get Assault. If Scrap is in play, they'll get +1. Like, these mechs are, like, it's already annoying to have a 6-might unit and then split into 2 3-might units, which is basically another 6-might unit. But when those individual units can also get buffed by might, which is basically the only thing Rumble wants to do, then those numbers get pretty big pretty quickly, as Traveling Merchant going to reinforce this minefield, really trying to hold for some points here. It is 3-1 currently, Jinx ahead on points, but Rumble's kind of gearing up for a pretty reasonable assault here in this mid-game as Rasa comes crashing down onto the battlefield.
Yeah, Project is really trying to hold. I think we are up to, Rasa is a 6. We're up to 11 might on the minefield. I mean, maybe we're not too shy of that with already 6 might in our base, but Silverfuse is going to need multiple more cards here to be able to take that spot.
Yeah, I think either a removal spell, so something like Singularity, maybe a Falling Star, or you mentioned it earlier, Bubblebot in this section of the game with another mech could be quite nice. I see a second Forerunner in hand.
Ooh. Ooh.
I see a Stupefy, which I think was the card you were alluding to earlier. I see a bunch of different 3s, but none of them are 2s or 6s, which are the removal spells I would otherwise be looking for.
Yeah, both of those would be really nice. I mean, Falling Star could take out Traveling Merchant. Oh, there is
This looks a lot like Falling Star.
Oh.
As soon as your opponent recycles 2 red runes, you're like, I'm in danger.
I mean, that's Traveling Merchant and that's Ezreal that could be taken out here. And then Rasa versus Forerunner, they're the same might.
Yeah, and unlike something like Aurelia, which maybe has other spells that can help fight the Falling Star, you don't get that option with Hard Bargain, at least when Silverfuse leaves this many runes open.
Yeah, really, really smart play leaving those up. You know your opponent has 4 runes, which is potentially 4 more on this Falling Star.
So he took the Rasa out instead, actually, decided to Falling Star that unit twice. I mean, that is the bigger might of the 2, right? It was 11 split between 3 units, so 6 on one side is the bigger half. But we are going to Rebuke, try and get this Forerunner back to hand, which is a great place to put it, because it doesn't make mechs when that happens.
Yeah, that is really nice. And by taking out the Rasa, we could have potentially won the whole showdown as well.
Yeah, it was 6 might to 5, was pretty geared up to win. I mean, again, things like Fight or Flight, things like Rebuke, you're really only looking at getting pushed out of that fight. You're not really looking to get out-muscled in that spot. So I do like that play again, trying to keep the tempo high here, keep the points up as Forerunner gets redeployed and turn gets passed back. So that's going to be 4 points now for the Jinx, holding onto this minefield for dear life.
Yeah, that's going to go up to 4 points, which we're feeling confident halfway to the winning mark. I mean, at 1, we need to do a lot to come back.
That double Death Rocket, that is double Super Mega Death Rocket. Not enough runes to play both, so this first Forerunner is going to be extremely sticky. Instead, it's going to be a Seal. Interesting, choosing to recycle here instead of tapping the Seal. Usually, playing Seal by tapping a Seal is kind of a very classic play from Origins, but wanting to maybe preserve it for something else, so a bigger play coming, perhaps it's going to be Death Rocket discard.
And we get a Rasa again. I wouldn't be surprised if we decide to play. We are kind of low on hand, but this is where Jinx's legend comes in. Jinx has a really interesting legend where I believe it is when you're at 1 or 0 cards, Correct. You get to draw an extra. So, maybe you don't see the small of hand normally in a Miracle or, Ezreal Engine deck, but for Jinx, she's really happy here.
Yeah, this is kind of actually a unique spot that Jinx gets in this shell versus something like Draven, where you can kind of go low, look to trade down aggressively with your spells, with your units against your opponent, and then catch back up on cards by naturally having things happen. So going to play this Jinx here as well. No battering ram, mercifully, for Silverfuse, so not that much might, but Traveling Merchant moved back, discard, drew a card, I believe drew the Rasa that is now in play, and then that was discount enough thanks to all of the discarding that's been happening. So I was wondering why the units were moving back to base. It's because you already got the point, and you do get benefits from moving the Traveling Merchant specifically. So this is looking like a tough spot here as Ferris Forerunner going to go to Vilemor's Lair, which I love. This is basically saying, this is my arena. If you come, you cannot leave. Let's fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Project's been avoiding it a lot, but oh my gosh, a second Ferris Forerunner, and it's going to be hard to displace them from the Vilemor. We did see Rebuke, which is an option. But I will say, as I mentioned earlier, Fight or Flight isn't one that they can use here.
Yeah, shutting down that card seems pretty good. Decent amount of might, though, on the other side. And I think the other thing is, like, yes, you're getting this battlefield. It's likely you'll be able to hold it potentially for the entire game. These are 2 6-might units that make 2 3-might units each. And they also have shield currently, thanks to Rumble's Legend. So that is 14 might right now holding onto that lair. But Jinx is at 4 points. You can just start racing. If you basically each decide that I'm going to take this battlefield, you're going to take this one, let's just race to hold, I'm going to win if this stays like this.
Yeah, but we do have Jim Jammer in our deck, or is it? Yeah, I think it's Jim Jammer and Bubble Bot that gives ganking. And so while maybe Silverfuse can't move back from Vilemor to base, ganking is fair game.
You can move from one battlefield to another if you have the ability, as Super Mega Death Rocket coming back in. Again, just kind of using it as almost like a card to discard here to this Merchant, wanting to, again, continue cycling through the deck, ready the Jinx, make her bigger. I kind of like that, actually. Again, it was a pretty good removal spell in the mid-game, just taking out that Rumble from the champion zone that did seem like quite a threat. But now it almost seems like a card that's just helping you cycle through the deck, which is an angle that this version of Miracle, the Jinx version, is actually unique to it. This is something Draven cannot do, of course, because Draven can't play Jinx's signature spell.
Very true, very true. It looks like we are going to be playing a hidden up at the top battlefield.
Could be anything.
It could be. There's so many choices. Any guesses?
Could even be a boat. Edge of Night, I think I'm gonna make my call. There are more Fight or Flights than Edge of Nights in the deck. I think there's only 2 Fight or Flights if I'm remembering the Jinx deck list correctly. But I'm gonna say this is the one of Edge of Night.
I would love it be Edge of Night. I think it may be one of my favorite cards of the set. That's not, a unit, I guess. But I just think, like, bringing out that gear, it introduces not permanent, but close to permanent might that you can attach to any of your units, and then Silverfuse is going to have to keep their eyes on it the whole game.
Yeah, again, kind of starving for might in general, especially in this kind of matchup, because Rumble is just presenting such big numbers on each battlefield. So any little bit you can get, and again, I like the bluffing aspect. We mostly expect Fight or Flight, right? That is the card that when someone hides a card, this is the card I'm expecting, as Bryn here is going to be put onto the board and start a chain. Hey, what's Edge of Night? Look at us.
Yeah, look at you. You got the guess, but we will react to that Edge of the Night. Once Bryn here resolves, then Project will not be able to play any more cards till their turn, so they went on and flipped it, attached it to that Rasa, said, we're 8 might. Deal with it.
Yeah, again, quite a lot of might to get through. Bryn here, 5 might on her own, which is a pretty sweet rate. When you play me, opponents can't play cards this turn. That isn't just spells, that is anything. So if you have a hidden unit, you can't do that either. If you manage to play it on your opponent's turn, you can have a lot of fun. Not in these domains, but I know some people have been cooking with Here to Help, which seems like a fun way to terrorize your poor opponent in a game of Riftbound. But I think the same issue here with 6 points to 3. Yes, you are likely holding this battlefield for a very long time, but you need to kind of hold, well, you at least need to prevent the double conquer, and you definitely need to prevent a hold. So going to be a tough spot here for Rumble to get enough might over there to displace the 8 might Rasa, and that's not including the rest of the might that's currently hiding in base.
Yeah, there is so much on Project's side, and Silverfuse is going to have to find a way to make it back. 3 versus 6 points, better than 1 versus 4 in my opinion. But let's see how it goes.
11 might right now. Boots of Swiftness going to make it 2 more, and of course give that pretty critical ganking, which is a nice way to get out of the lair if you find yourself trapped there.
Very true.
But Death Rocket once more. Shoot the Bryn here. Basically anything with 5 might, the rocket gets pointed at. I just don't want to deal with that. Take that out. And can we get enough over? I mean, I said there was 11 might on the side before. Boots is +2, that's 13, but it's 14 including the shield with the 2 Ferris Forerunners. And you don't, not only do you not want to go, well, you do want to go there because you want to get the Forerunners off there, but not only is it a lot of might for you to get off the board, if you do get over there, you just give them more might.
Yeah, I mean, you take it and there's 6 babies in the base, and then you don't even have to worry about him finding Jim Jammer. He can just move up into the other battlefield. It's a lot to think about, but it looks like Rasa is going to be coming back to base, and it kind of says to me we're going to be really pushing next turn to take not only the 7th point, but the 8th as well and finish off the game.
Yeah, kind of a classic Jinx play. Even though this Jinx deck doesn't have a lot of assault in it, playing for the last 2 points by conquering both is a very common play pattern in general in Riftbound, but especially with a legend like Jinx. So 6 points sitting pretty so far against the 4 after the hold here of these 2 Forerunners. Again, this Fire Monster is going to be extremely hard to kick these units off.
Oh, yeah.
But being behind in the race means you can't just sit there and hold for the rest of the game. You have to keep putting units on the board. But thankfully, that is exactly what Rumble wants to do. Is here's Forecaster, not Shoutcaster. Gonna look at the top card with Vision and then decide to put it on the bottom. Kind of like a very tiny stack deck effect.
Yeah, we get to see the cards, so at least we'll have an idea what we get in our next draws. There are some cards, that Silverfuse has that have the additional ability of drawing as well, so maybe it will help us set up for this next turn.
What card did you talk about earlier, the 2-drop?
It's stupefying me right now. What was it?
I definitely heard Gem Jammer at one point, and I'm pretty sure I see 3 of them.
Oh, those as well, yes.
Silverfuse's hand. That would be a way to get another point this turn. Unfortunately, generally the odd point breakpoints are the ones you love in Riftbound because, as you pointed out, you generally get points in even increments, 2 at a time, if things are going well. But it is going to be a reinforcement here with Dangerous Duo, which I'm going to need to have production pull the text up because I do not remember what that card is. When you play me, give a unit +2 this turn. Okay, so a nice little 3-drop that sometimes in the mid-game makes things a bit bigger. Not super relevant here. Does trigger the Legion text, but that is not going to matter currently as the Stupefy is just going to get cycled here to draw a card, it looks like. Unless there's a damage spell coming after this.
You see Stupefy.
Shrinking the Ezreal.
Yeah. So we shrink Ezreal to 2.
Bella's Breath?
I think we've already discarded Bella's Breath, but right now it would help to kill Ezreal and put additional damage out, but it may just be a card draw as well. We got to Vision, so maybe we've set something up at the top of our deck that we needed to draw, and Stupefy was an option for that.
Yes, Jammer also going to come down, reinforce the same battlefield. Seems like Silverfuse is committed to at least putting as much might as possible on this Vile Mausoleum. Does see another Stupefy and put it to the bottom thanks to Forecaster, which does trigger every time you play mech, not just the time you play Forecaster itself. And that's going to be a pass back here. 2 runes open, but not that many cards in hand. Again, just really going for this plan of, I'm going to make you get the last point, and you're never getting it from this point. Because again, as you pointed out, it's a hold or a double conquer to win that 8th point, to get that winning point.
Yeah, and as you said, there's 2 more Gem Jammers in hand. We're threatening a lot here, and while we have 2 runes up on Silverfuse's side, we're kind of not only threatening +2. I mean, if I read the Dangerous Duo correctly, when you play another card, it gets +2.
Ooh.
I'm not sure if I could have read that wrong for the record. Maybe it's when I
think it's
play.
when you play, if
okay.
you're Legion. You
Never mind then. I'm thinking too much of Darius.
That is correct. That would be hype. Look,
yeah, that would be
really
hype. That would be hype. I don't know the card well enough, obviously.
It's certainly a card like Danger Zone.
That would be funny,
That's a pretty
though.
good Rumble card. What happened to poor Forerunner? Oh, it got pushed back, I think. Rebuked, I'm guessing? No, I don't see a Rebuke.
Oh, here comes Fizz.
I looked away for 1 second. Where'd the first Forerunner go? Oh, Fizz getting Rebuke recycled. That's almost assuredly what happened. Now Death Rocket's going to shoot this thing. And again, shield is pretty good from the Legend and out of Rumble. You do not get shield when damage spells are being thrown at your face. Only when you're fighting on a battlefield.
Yeah, that's like one thing that's so great about these removal spells or these like damage spells. Shield doesn't come in, either like effects for like defending don't come into play, and so we are able to go in and kill some of these units. We still do have 8, 10, I guess, if you're including shield here in Vile Maw, though.
Oh, that is really sick. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so the rocket trigger happened on Conquer, discarded a card, which triggered the other rocket, and then discarded the rocket that they picked up before after the Conquer just to pick up the other rocket. And you might think, why on earth would you do that? That's so useless. It's because Jinx gets bigger every single time you discard. You just got a free might by cycling through your rockets.
Yeah, that's so nice.
That's so cool.
She's an 8 now.
Yeah, she's huge. I mean, again, we only need to get through this battlefield, and there is only 6 might left. 7 if you count the 1 shield that Rumble gives you. But only need 1 more conquer. 7 points. The 8th could be coming through here. There is so much might moving onto this battlefield. That's 6. That's the Geki from the boots, and that's going to be the game here. We are going to play a game number 3, almost assuredly.
Yeah, it looks like game 3 is going to be coming down here. I don't think 2 runes is enough to stop it, and it doesn't look like Silverfuse does either. It's time for game 3, and it looks like it's going to be that Grove of the God Willow versus Obelisk. We've seen a lot of holding this game, so Grove of the God Willow will do great in that type of position, helping draw more cards. And interestingly enough, Obelisk is a really cool one as well, where your first turn, you may channel an extra rune. Hopefully we'll see both players do that. Yes, please, both players do not forget. The rules have been updated slightly. You do have a little more time than normal to remember. Obviously, it does give your opponent a bit of an advantage, but generally when I've seen Obelisk, just getting an extra rune, I think either on the player draw can be good, but makes sense here that Jinx wants to go a little bit bigger, kind of have a more explosive first turn when they are starting quote-unquote behind, right, because they don't have the first opportunity to play a unit. I assume Silverfuse chose to go first here in this final game. But yeah, we have seen quite a lot of, like, let's call it like meat and potatoes Riftbound, right? Just a lot of holding, a lot of conquering, a lot of might numbers being added up. And at the end of the day, you know, the Miracle Shells can do a lot of like very powerful things, but they are still trying to play Riftbound at the end of the day. They're just putting a lot of might in. The way they do it might feel a bit unfair, but they are ultimately just trying to get big numbers onto battlefields. Yeah, it's very true. I'm interested in seeing as well, though, what Silverfuse has to do with this mulligan. I think I see Bellows Breath here, and it is, you know, a removal spell we can see early in the game. It did look like there was a chance that she was going to mulligan it away, and if I remember correctly, she doesn't have too high of a count of Bellows Breath. So it'd be very interesting what she decides to do here. I do also see that Plundering Pora, which is our 2-drop. And then on Jinx's side, do we have a 2-drop? Maybe I see Traveling Merchant?
I'm using my keen eyes as best I can. I see an Edge of Night. I see a Scrap Heap. That's the 2. I see a Seal, and I think Last Rites is the final card there in Jinx's hand. So it's going to be resolving some mulligans here for both players. I imagine Poro is getting kept, especially on the play. Seems quite good. Yeah. And, you know, we can be a little reductive here. We've seen 2 games now between these 2 decks. It does seem like getting on board early looks pretty important.
Oh, yeah.
Not game-breaking by any means. Both decks certainly have ways to come back in the mid-game, but getting on base seems pretty good here.
Yeah, it does seem like whoever does that ends up pulling ahead, and neither decks have been really able to come back from that. Maybe we'll see it a little bit different here. And we do have more runes, as we mentioned earlier, for this first turn. Project, I'm assuming, is going to be going second, so he'll have 4 runes. And Silverfuse will be going first, but he'll actually have 3 runes instead of 2, so multiple options.
It looks like just resolving mulligans here. I think keeping Poro... No, Jupiter's going to the bottom. So I assume Poro, and I think Bella's Breath is the other card that's getting capped. We're going to find out very soon, though, as game's going to kick off. Silverfuse is, in fact, going first. Obelisk is going to trigger. Good work remembering your trigger in round 1 of the RQ. Don't want to forget that one. Draw your card and put something on the board. Plundering Poro did get capped. I see a Falling Star in hand as well. And Plundering Poro going to kick things off, pass it on back to Jinx.
Yeah, and with 1 rune up, there's... I mean, they're not going to battlefield yet, but we'll have to see if there's anything that Project has to worry about. I don't think so.
See Mind Splitter in Project's hand. Just peeled that one off the top. I don't believe that was in the main deck when we checked before. So that one coming in for kind of the later stage of the game. Wants maybe just bigger units, bit of disruption, and just plays the Edge of Night. Natty.
Interesting choice. I mean, it's a we got to spend our runes that we wouldn't get to spend later, so it's nice.
I think in general, when your opponent makes this play on turn 1, you are extremely happy as the Rumble player. Because your opponent's playing Obelisk. They're trying to maximize their first turn as much as they can. They want to use all of their energy. And seeing just Edge of Night, nothing that's really committed to the board as far as a unit that can maybe challenge you at this battlefield, especially when it's Grove of the God Willow. You're going to get your gold on Conquer. You're going to potentially get your hold as well and get an extra bit of card draw. So reading Jinx, knowing that that is a unit that can absolutely be played next turn after 2 more runes have channeled, does in a discard to ready it, but that Jinx would be quite good at challenging the lonely Poro that only has 2 might.
Yeah, it very potentially could. I wouldn't be surprised if we were just checking to make sure or see if there was an accelerator on something. You don't see Jinx too often. So just making sure that Plundering Poro here is safe in the Grove with God Willow, because we would love to get that extra draw. We'd love to get that head start in points, and we know that that is a threat, like you mentioned.
Yeah, just playing the Rumble on curve, again, just so nice for these Rumble decks to just have a turn 2 play that you're always happy to put out. Jinx could, of course, if she was able to get ready and get bigger, could potentially have challenged at the battlefield. There's only 1 mech, so only 1 instance of shield, so the math gets a little funny, but I think Silverfuse taking the more conservative line, just playing out the unit and saying, you know what, if the Poro already got a point, I already made a gold. If I hold and draw a card, excellent. I've done 99% of the things this Plundering Poro could ever do. It is overachieving. If you do, that's fine. I just lost a unit, I already have my point.
Yeah, he may be a Plundering Poro, but he's an overachieving Poro.
Certainly is at this stage. This is one of the hardest working Poros I've seen on the broadcast so far. We'll see many more this weekend, I'm sure.
Yeah, very, very hard working. I say he's MVP so far of the blue sides, but let's see here. A second gear coming down, second potential equipment. I think Silverfuse is happy to see it like this thus far. Already at 2 points. Even more overachieving on that Poro.
I would not be able to contain myself. If this was the turn, the way I started in Game 3 of my first round of the RQ, I would be out of my chair jumping up and down. This could not have started better for the Rumble. It is nothing committed to board, some gear that certainly can be used later. We know that there's ways to, ready units to kind of get, not pseudo-accelerate, I guess it is pseudo-accelerate because it's fake accelerate, but it does share some of the DNA from the champion zone with the Jinx. Like, we know these Miracle decks, they're good at coming back. A lot of times you just give 6 points and then you do so much stuff in the mid to late game that overwhelms your opponent that you're happy. Not what Rumble wants to do. Rumble certainly wants to start early and then have a really powerful mid game with a lot of those big 6s especially. But this, I mean, the Poro is just Gold Star Poro at this point.
Oh yeah, Gold Star. He's number 1 in his class.
Yeah.
And we're going to be taking that other side as well. Obelisk, not as high of a priority as the Grove of the God Willow, but
it does give points.
It does give points, and we've already drawn off the Grove of the God Willow. We don't even care about it anymore, honestly.
Even a blank battlefield gives points, which has to feel good. Rumble Scrap going to come down here looking for the hole. Does not choose to reinforce here. Again, being a bit conservative, wanting to let Jinx commit to battlefields first before deciding to kind of go back in. But this is going to make Obelisk especially a much harder prospect to hold on to.
Yeah, harder to hold on to, but it's nice to develop our base. We need to get might in our base, so if Project is able to clear the 2 battlefields, we still have a plan for our following turn. And we have it looks like a couple runes up as well. I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 or more, but there's hopefully things that we can do here. It looks like we are going to be spending a lot of runes, though, here on Project side. And what is going to be coming down? I love the rune he has, by the way.
Oh, it's beautiful looking. Going to recycle one more. And the seal. It's
Ooh,
Mind Splitter.
Mind Splitter.
We did spy Mind Splitter earlier. Shows the hand. Ooh, a Kai'Sa, Bellows Breath, Falling Star. I'd love to look at all the pretty cards. Piercing Light, Singularity, Longsword. This hand was really good.
That is really, really good hand here. It would be a difficult choice for me. What do I think here would be the most important to take out? Singularity is, able to take out larger might units and multiples of them, but maybe it's not the immediate threat. Kai'Sa is more might on board. Longsword potentially, that semi-permanent might. I don't know what I would choose.
I think the good news for Project is that no single spell can take out this Mind Splitter.
That's true.
That would be bad times. So Singularity going to be the choice. I think probably the best choice given the texture of the mid game. A lot of like 5-ish might units, right? A lot of units in range of Singularity, let's say, in this Jinx deck. So wanting to just take out the spell that is most efficient in terms of taking out the most amount of might. Still on the back foot here again. Mind Splitter, very powerful card, very good 7-drop here. And that 7 might is going to be pretty good when we waltz over to the battlefield, especially if we have some equipment. But not this turn, unfortunately, for Project. So going to be 5 points behind in the current state if this holds. And now I'm really going to wish I had Rumble Scrapper on the battlefield.
For sure. I'd love to get that +3 might mech. I'd love it for sure. But it is the safer play, and it looks like we are deciding that we're going to attach our gears here. What is that? An 11 might Mind Splitter, or is it
7+4? Yeah, it should be 11. Has ganking and it doesn't have the Edge of Night text. The rest of Edge of Night is just hidden text.
Yeah, true.
As you can see, Silverfuse saying, hey, just especially for the feature match, can you stack them nicely so we can read all the numbers? And it is 7+2+2. So as you pointed out, 11 might.
That is so much, and it's going to be hard to deal with as Silverfuse, especially preemptively before it could even take one of these battlefields.
Not going to matter this turn, though. And Grover the Godwillow Poro is still going. Poro has made a goal, drawn 2 cards, and scored 3 points this game.
Yeah, I think he made it to college and may have gotten a PhD while holding on this Grover the Godwillow. He cannot stop overachieving.
PhD in piracy. This plundering Poro working so hard out here in this final game of round 1 of the original qualifier here in Las Vegas. 5 points to 0, looking like a dire situation, but do not count these purple decks out. Chaos is quite a good domain, and Jinx certainly has the tools to get it done. I think especially from the champ zone, we saw a lot of cool discard readying action in our last game, actually, for Project to close out game number 2. I think the thing to note, though, is that this play of making the Mind Splitter really big by attaching all the gears, very committal as far as resources go. Only going to have 6 runes at the next turn, whereas you look over across the board and there's an embarrassment of riches on the other side. Are we playing 2 spells here to take out the Splitter?
I wouldn't be surprised. We have 6 come down first.
All right, 5 left.
So we need, 5 more minimum here. But I think we have it in hand, right? Like, we saw so many different spells. He's got a second Falling Star as well. And Mind Splitter, we spent 4 power on him last turn. And he's in the trash.
7 energy, 4 power. Yes, one of those was a seal, but didn't see the second Falling Star when the Mind Splitter happened. That one came off the top thanks to the overworking Poro, drawing an extra card on the turn from Grover the Godwillow. And that is, it was always going to be a 2-card play to take out this Mind Splitter, which is not the most efficient, but at this stage of the game, you are just happy to get the work done. And Falling Star, about the best you could ask for as far as 2 cards to answer one.
Yeah, it looks like Silverfuse is very happy with what the Plundering Poro decided to do throughout this game. And it's, you can rest in base now. I'm going to swap you out with my blue Rumbles, who will make more babies for base as well. But we are sitting pretty here on both battlefields. It is going to be 2 more turns, though, before we even win. Even if we hold another turn, we are only going to 7 points, which does mean Project still has time to come back, but it's going to be a difficult game.
Yeah, we can do a bit of math here as we kind of look at the battlefields that Silverfuse is presenting as far as might goes. Reminder, shield on Rumble Legend, so you get +1 when you're defending, which, as you can see, both mechs currently are, and then +1 thanks to Rumble Scrapper. So it's 4 base might for the Rumble on the bottom of your screen, so make it 5 +1 for shield is basically 6, and it's 4 in the same math on the other side, +1 for shield. So 2 6s here as Fight or Flight's going to kick Rumble Scrapper out of his home, the Grove of the Godwillow, which would have been such a delicious bit of value if able to hold. Unfortunately, going to be scared back to base by Jinx.
Yeah, we didn't have to worry about it as much last game because of that Vile Maw, but we are very happy, I feel like, to find fight or flight, if only to be able to push them off, say, like, not to hold, and not to get an extra card draw, not to get the extra mech as well. It would have just been disastrous for that hold.
Yeah, unfortunately for the points, not going to make the biggest difference, just because you're going to be effectively in the same spot. The double hold would have gone from 5 to 7. The double conquer that you're basically inviting your opponent to do, because with one rune, what is Jinx to do in this spot? So going to be basically in the same spot as far as the game's points go. Silverfuse should go to 7 on her turn. Not a lot left in the tank for Project, and just this lone Fizz, again, that Mind Splitter was really the play that was committed to this board. No other units clearly in hand in the early game because of all this gear that was getting played. Making one big unit feels pretty good, but plenty of removal spells over in Rumble to try and cut that down. So we are going to go again. Fizz is going to be the unit that is towered up to a 7 might unit. In this kind of board, with these mechs and these Rumble passives, 7's not a very big number.
I will say it is, trying to stop some of those like damage spells, because without those Piercing Light could have wiped the Fizz off the board. We could have potentially maybe like moved up Punning Pro, gotten a gold, then Piercing Lighted the Punning Pro and Fizz. Where do you come back when you continue to not have units on board? And so it's good to keep it safe, but it's costing us a lot.
I mean, look, you're absolutely correct. This is the play you have to make.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the play you want to make
100%.
when you're playing this deck. Rumble hot-headed, going to go ahead back to the Obelisk and get point number 6. And I think the question is, how much might do we want to stack here? Plundering Poro, again, a second gold made in this game. This is the same Plundering Poro that was played on turn 1, I will remind you. And so I have to imagine that we're going to stack as much might as we can on the top battlefield, because we're at 7. We just need to hold here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think Poro has gotten like 4 points this game, but he's only gotten us 2 gold because we have just been holding, and holding. Looks like we are going to be playing that Ferris Forerunner, which does threaten 2 extra mechs in base if you decide to kill it. And it leaves up a rune as well, which we're going to have to watch out for.
Doesn't want to commit Scrapper to a battlefield, interestingly. Decides not to maybe overfill one of the battlefields there, wants to hold it back. I mean, most of your units end up back in base when you're playing against purple because of all the I guess, base bounce style effects, things like fight or flight. With Fizz, of course, can do a rebuy. Here's Ezreal going to try and find a few more cards. Ross is straight to the trash. That card doesn't do anything right now for you.
Yeah, we do not have a lot in our discard pile, but Seal Ezreal feels so nice. A little bit later in game than we would have preferred, but it is, Seal Ezreal regardless. We still have 2 runes up as well. Fizz is a 7, so potentially able to take out at least the Obelisk of Power one, but we have to clear both sides if we don't want Silverfuse to win this game.
Is Rebuke only from battlefields? I believe it is.
I believe it's only from battlefields.
It is. That is the reason Scrap is in base.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Love that play from Silverfuse. Wanting, again, so you said 7, and it immediately triggered in my brain, I have to do Rumble math again. How big is Ferris Forerunner just on its own as a mech? It's the only mech at this grove. Well, 6 plus the shield is 7, plus the Scrapper is 1. That's 8. That is much bigger. Well, a little bit bigger than the Fizz is right now. And that's what I was thinking, is like, why wouldn't you put Scrapper on the battlefield? It gives you 5 more might. Well, you actually just want the passive. And of course, if you can maybe get a double conquer if there's not enough to really do some damage on both these battlefields, which I will remind you, Jinx needs to conquer or at least push the units off both of these, or the game is over and you are losing round 1 of your RQ.
Yeah, it's that holding to 8 points again. That's Project's threat here. There's that but there's so many things that Project can do. There is only 2 runes up though, which does decrease how many we can do, but there's a lot of options still within 2 runes. We have that Rebuke you mentioned, we have fighter flights, but it looks like it's me game. And Rumble, an awesome round 1 match. I love it.
Exactly the sentence I expected to say at the start here of the RQ in Vegas. Rumble is going to win our round 1 here in Vegas. That's a totally normal sentence.
Yeah, I completely expected. It feels like we're going to see it for the rest of the tournament, but I doubt that is the case, actually. Rumble, so interesting to see. So happy to see it. And Jinx versus Rumble, such a cool match.
Yeah, I think you saw Project at the end there. Again, not the greatest start with all the gear early, not a lot of units to try and contest the early battlefields that Rumble wanted to. Stack deck, cold shot, Ezreal was all happening there to try and get through the deck and find some answers, but after that Mind Splitter play, committing so much of your resources, losing a bunch of them to recycling, and then just getting that unit killed by 2 falling stars, and there's nothing else you really have left. You're just digging for answers, and even if you find them, you don't necessarily have the energy or the resources to even deploy them. So very nicely navigated game there for Silverfuse.
Yeah, fantastic by Silverfuse. It was really painful for Project. We had to play 2 gears in a row, and obviously we tried to protect our units with it later, but just so much removal from the Rumble side. It's about a loss, sadly.
Yeah, really great game 1. Can't wait to hear what the winner has to say, because we have an interview with Silverfuse coming right up.
That's going to be so much fun.
All right, so I'm here with Silverfuse. Took down my girl Jinx playing Rumble. Why Rumble?
Big thing was I played Kaisa last set, and I didn't have a ton of time to prepare, so I also was looking to get a best of. So those things came together. I knew the colors and had a general idea of how the deck would play, so I went from there.
Cool, that was my next question. So it's a big question in these tournaments of, are you playing to win the whole tournament, or are you going for one of those awesome best ofs? So Rumble should be a pretty good best of to go for.
Yeah, I saw that he was pretty low overall, and I just like the mech tribal overall, so I wanted to play that for that reason, and the best of is just like a little bonus on top of that potential.
Awesome, and then overall vibes for the event, how are you enjoying it so far?
Oh, it's been incredible. I've met so many people that I've been looking forward to see, that I've been testing with, talking with, people that I haven't seen ever, even though I've known them for 5+ years. So back from the Legends of Runeterra community, shout out to them. So, yep.
Awesome, great stuff. Well, good luck today. May you rumble many folks.